Have you ever just been going about your day, minding your own business, and suddenly, out of nowhere, you feel this profound sense of protection? Or, maybe it's just a tiny intuitive nudge, like a sudden whisper telling you, hey, take a different route home today, or you really need to call that friend right now. A lot of the time, we just brush these moments off as mere coincidence, right? But what if they aren't? What if there is actually a completely invisible support system that is entirely dedicated to helping you navigate your life? Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into insights from top spiritual teachers to create your ultimate guide to understanding those invisible whispers.
Throughout this explainer, we are going to completely demystify the whole concept of spirit guides. We're going to tackle the big questions head on. What exactly are they? How many are out there? Is there just one assigned to you? And honestly, the most important part, how do you actually hear them and get them on the line? We are taking what sounds like a super mystical concept and turning into a concrete, totally practical daily habit.
All right, so here is our game plan for today. We'll kick things off by meeting your spiritual support team, figuring out exactly how many guides you have, walking through the actual steps to talk to them, decoding their unique messages, and finally, covering the essential rules for keeping that connection crystal clear.
Okay, part 1. Meet your spiritual support team.
To start, we really need to define what we actually mean when we say spirit guides. Because, let's be honest, for a lot of people, this can sound a little bit out there. But fundamentally, they are your universal support team on the other side. Some people view them literally as guardian angels or past loved ones keeping a watchful eye. Others, like the legendary author Napoleon Hill, viewed them more as aspects of our own deep subconscious, basically a way to access a higher resonance of thought way outside the normal human brain. But regardless of whatever label you prefer, the experts all agree on their core purpose. They are invisible advisors just waiting to co-create with you. They're literally there to amplify your higher voice and help you navigate the roadblocks of life.
Now, if you're sitting there right now thinking, yeah, okay, but I'm not spiritual enough for this, or I'm definitely not psychic, best-selling author Gabrielle Bernstein has a really powerful reminder for us. Connecting with your guides isn't some super rare special skill reserved for people meditating in a cave on a mountaintop for 10 hours a day. It is a completely natural ability that everyone possesses. Literally, it is your spiritual birthright. So the problem usually isn't your ability to connect, it's honestly just your approach.
Which brings us to part 2. How many guides are there?
A really common question people ask is there just one guide for me? Well, according to angel expert Radley Valentine, you do have one primary guardian angel, and their main focus is 100% you. In fact, they supposedly stay with you across all of your soul's incarnations. So yes, you do have that one deeply personal guide, but they definitely aren't alone. You also have archangels who are omnipresent and handle major life purposes and heavy-duty protection. You have loved ones supporting you. And this is so fascinating, you can actually summon specialized guides for specific projects. Entrepreneur Vishen Lakhiani points out that you can call in a guide specifically for human connection, or for money, or for healing. There are even what teachers literally call unemployed angels, who are just waiting around for a job to do.
If this is still feeling a little abstract, let's bring it right down to earth. Nearly a century ago, Napoleon Hill studied the most successful people in the world, and he documented this thing called the boardroom technique. He would literally sit in stillness, close his eyes, and imagine this massive boardroom table, and around it he'd place historical figures he respected, like Abraham Lincoln and Henry Ford, and he would mentally ask them for advice on leadership or money. Later on, meditation pioneer Jose Silva actually adapted this. He taught people to enter deep meditation and just ask for one male and one female guide to step forward as their invisible counselors. The form they take, whether it's a historical figure, a beam of light, or even an animal, is really just the way your intuition is choosing to present that supportive energy to you.
All right, part 3. How to talk to them.
So, we know who they are, but how do we actually get the conversation started? Psychic medium Marianne DeMarco suggests something incredibly simple. She calls it the habitual check-in. You really don't need a formal, complicated ritual for this. Just treat them like a friend. Step 1. While you're brushing your teeth or brewing your morning coffee, just mentally say, "Good morning, guides." Step 2. Express a little bit of gratitude and tell them you are ready to work with them today. Step 3. Ask a specific question. This part is absolutely crucial because your guides respect your free will. They operate on a strict rule of non-interference. They aren't going to just step in and hijack your life. You have to specifically invite them into your important meetings, your dates, or those really difficult conversations. But listen, you also have to do your part, which means unplugging from the daily noise. Intuitive teacher Sonia Choquette shares a brilliant anecdote about this. When she was a teenager learning about intuition, her mentor told her to show up for a class every single Friday at 7 p.m.
Well, one Friday, she showed up late. She waited on the porch, and he never answered the door. The next week, she asked him, "Where were you?" And he told her, "I was here, your guides were here, you didn't come, so we left." Wow. The lesson there? You have to prioritize and respect the connection. You can't just be mindlessly scrolling social media, completely steeped in distraction, and expect to hear subtle, spiritual guidance. You have to make a daily appointment, even if it's literally just 5 minutes of stillness, to show up for them.
Moving on to part 4, decoding your guide's messages.
Okay, so you've asked your questions, but now you face the absolute biggest hurdle we all face, telling the difference between your own ego and true, authentic guidance. Marianne DeMarco uses something called the 5-second rule. When you ask a question, you need to pay attention to the very first thing you hear, see, or feel within the first 5 seconds. Spirit comes through as a clear, immediate, and brief knowing that just sits well in your body. On the flip side, if the voice in your head is super loud, wishy-washy, fearful, or starts over-explaining all the reasons why you can't possibly do something, that is your ego talking. Spirit guides don't hesitate, and they definitely don't deal in fear.
Beyond that internal voice in your head, guides actually love to use physical signs in the earthly space. You can actively ask them for a sign just to confirm you're on the right path. Common ones include finding white feathers on the ground, seeing repeating numbers like 444 or 1111, or encountering specific animals. For instance, Gabby Bernstein uses blue butterflies to communicate with her guides. The most amazing thing about this is that you can assign the meaning. You can ask for whatever specific sign you want. You can even ask to know your guide's name. It might randomly pop into your head as Joshua or Lily, or, as Radley Valentine jokingly points out, you could literally even just call them mayonnaise. Honestly, they do not mind what you call them, as long as you are making the effort to connect.
Now, to decode these messages effectively, you really need to figure out how you naturally receive information. Everyone has a dominant intuitive muscle, often called a clair. If you're a highly visual person, you might be clairvoyant and receive your guidance through super vivid images or dreams. If you're clairaudient, you might hear a clear inner voice, kind of like you're reading a book out loud to yourself. And if you have claircognizance, you just get this deep, sudden gut knowing. Knowing your primary clair is exactly like tuning into the right radio station. Think about it. If you're meant to feel your answers, but you're constantly sitting around waiting to see a cinematic vision, you are totally going to miss the broadcast. Trust your gut.
And finally, part 5, rules for a clear connection. So we know how to ask and we know how to listen, but how do we maintain this relationship and keep the channel free of static? The absolute crucial point here is that this is a relationship, not a cosmic vending machine. Spiritual teacher Ben Smith outlines 5 states of alignment to ensure you're getting clear guidance. First, sincerity. You have to approach them without demanding that things happen on your exact timeline. Second, stillness. Actually find those 5 quiet minutes. Third, humility. Put your ego aside and be willing to admit, hey, I don't know what to do here, please help. Fourth, consistency. Build a rapport by simply saying thank you and saying it often. And finally, alignment. When you face hardship, don't just beg them to magically take the problem away. Instead, ask them, what is this trying to teach me? How can I grow from this? That one mature shift in your mentality opens up massive spiritual growth.
And look, when you actually get the guidance, you have to act on it. Vishen Lakhiani tells this incredible story about being at the Burning Man festival. He was feeling incredibly lonely after losing all his friends in a massive dust storm. He sat down to meditate just to escape the sadness, but he suddenly felt his guide, a playful energy he actually called Ripple, tell him, now is not the time to meditate. Get up and start walking. His ego totally fought it, but he trusted the guidance, started walking completely blindly into the desert, and almost immediately bumped right into a group of his colleagues. It ended up being the best night of his trip. When you get the breadcrumbs, you have to follow them without arguing.
Now, I know I mentioned earlier that guides respect your free will and usually wait for an invitation. However, there is one major exception to this: angel interventions. If you are severely veering off your intended life path or you're heading into extreme unexpected danger, your guides will sometimes override your free will and just step in. It might feel like a sudden, undeniable bodily stop during a really toxic argument, or a loud voice yelling at you to turn the steering wheel, or even a bizarre coincidence that perfectly blocks a terrible decision. They intervene because they see the big picture and they know you are meant for a place of joy and purpose.
We've definitely covered a lot of ground today, but if you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer, let it be this ultimate reframe. The biggest block to receiving guidance is simply fear and the feeling that you are unworthy. It's the totally false idea that you are somehow bothering your guides and that they have way better things to do. The actual truth, your guides want to hear from you. They are literally waiting by the phone, eager to co-create with you and help you live a joyful, meaningful life. The pressure is completely off. You don't have to force it. You just have to allow it. So, as we wrap things up, I want to leave you with a question to really think about. What will you ask your invisible counselors today? You now have the exact blueprint to start your habitual check-in, to set your intentions, and to keep an eye out for those blue butterflies, white feathers, or quiet intuitive nudges. Remember, you are never doing this alone. You literally have a whole team waiting in the wings for you. So take a deep breath, say good morning to your guides, and ask for a little bit of help today. Just see what happens.